I think I'm live. Got it. Okay. I think I'm live. I think we're ready to go. It's a new bit of technology I'm using. So I was trying to see if I could bring Cara in. So Cara, if you comment, say something, and then we can see if I can get you onto this. And that would be nice if I could. Hello, Ken. Just trying to see if I can bring Cara on and just wait for a few more people to. There's all kinds of buttons I can press here, and I don't really know what's going on. It has been a long time, Ken, and I think it's been a long time of not seeing lots of people, really. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on. I was hoping to bring Cara and have a little chat with her because, but I think I'm going to get her to. I'm going to call her up so you can then hear what's going on. So that's probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to call Cara now. Let's call her and we're going to have a chat. And I'm going to keep to. Well, I've got sort of new cameras set up, and so that I find that the trouble with all this is that you can only really you can't look at somebody in the face, and so I've got a system where I can actually look at you and see you when I'm looking at the camera. Of course, I can't then see your comments either. Great. Okay. So where's my data? Are you there, sweetie? I thought I could bring you in. We should have looked at this beforehand, shouldn't we?
Probably.
Yeah, we should have practiced. What are we doing? So my idea about this live, and I promise I am gonna keep it to half an hour because I've got a loaf now. Just put a loaf of sourdough in. And there's a lot of things that I have, and you sort of said to me I should do a thing where I talk about, where I have my little rants in half an hour and go on about things. So what was it you're wanting to say? What vaccine that you got given as well?
No, I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
That's hilarious. So was it the Pizza vaccine?
Pizza.
I love that. All right, so please, if you're watching, please comment afterwards, and we'll put it there as a recording as well. So comment during or after, and I'll try and keep an eye on the comments as well. So basically, for those of you that I assume that those of you that know me, and share the video, please do. Those of you that know me, I've been in this business for 30 odd years, and Cara's grown up around it, so she's seen me rant and rave about various things within the complementary therapy business. What's your view of complementary therapy, Cara? What have you always thought in terms of understanding it?
Well, can I just double check that people can hear me?
Can you hear me? Can people hear me?
Can people hear me?
Can somebody say yes? I can hear you. That would be good. Yeah, somebody. So Liz has said, yeah, that's it. So it's obviously somebody can hear you because somebody's taking the mickey out of you. Turns out somebody called Liz Scott is saying, ha ha, it's the Viagra one, Cara. Remember that? I don't know what she means. Anyway, so complementary medicine.
So,
Tell me.
complementary therapy, I think, my opinion, I've grown up around it and I've seen its benefits. It works. And the thing that, I'd quite like to unpack with you is why there's this insistence on it being medical versus complementary rather than medical and complementary.
Complementary.
As someone who suffered from migraines, I've seen the benefit of both, medical benefits and complementary benefits, and they, in my world, coexisted side by side. But for a lot of people, it seems to be either or, and I just don't get that.
I think there's a big polarization. I think that's the issue that and it was my friend Charles over in Nunny who called me this, and I hadn't really considered it, but he sort of said, you're a shaman, and you kind of walk between two worlds. And the last 10, 12 years, because of the dissections I'm doing, check out our live streams in April, please join, it's going to be awesome. Because of the dissections I'm doing, I'm tending to hang out in medical schools, doing science. I started a science degree, and so I hear that side of things. And then within the complementary therapy, which has been my whole adult life, you're 30 and I learned Bowen, 2 years before you, 1988, so 3 years before you were born. So 33 years, the best part of my adult life has been in complementary medicine with reflexology and Bowen and all those other things. And so I sort of straddled two lines, and both of those spaces infuriate me, and you'll hear more about my views on anatomy and academia later on. But I think in answer to your question, in answer to your issue, is that why aren't we more engaged with more engaged with the allopathic? Did you just put that up, Cara?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's a poll. Cool. So answer the poll there. Why are we more engaged? Because the complementary medicine field doesn't really help itself, and there's no simple answer to this. But basically, because we have a lived experience with stuff, we put our hands on people, and touch is incredibly powerful, and we see huge changes. But for the most part within complementary medicine, the people that come to us are self-selecting, and we don't necessarily know that what we do works. We really feel it works, and we see it day in, day out, but that doesn't mean to say that it does work in the terms of work, in terms of compared to what. We go, all these people with back pain, they come to me and they have 6 treatments and they go away. But most people don't come to us. Most people don't see us at all. And the vast majority of people who have a back pain don't come to a therapist. They go away and they take it easy and the pain goes away, and that's fine. And so we see these people that are looking for something and they find us, and we don't know for sure whether a lot of the stuff that we do is actually effective when we look at it in very objectively and in clinical settings. And so we tend therefore to make claims about what it is that we're doing, and we make statements of fact where there aren't any fact, and it's infuriating. And somebody said to me, this has been proven by quantum physics, quantum science. And I said, well, quantum science hasn't been proven, so how are we going to prove something by quantum science? I don't know. And there was an article in a Private Eye by Mark Hammond, who writes the PM, and he said, and I was on the radio with him, and I said, look, you want to go with anatomy with me head to head? He went, no, you're done. I did my anatomy years ago. So I said, we're not talking about belief system. We're talking about doing something that we think works. We don't know why it works, but something happens. And he said, I agree with you, but the trouble with complementary medicine is that it bigs up its therapy by talking unscientific cobblers. He said a ruder word than cobblers, but I promised it would keep it clean. And so I think that's the thing, is that we make stuff up that is.
Why? Why do you think people feel that? Because there's research out there that says that complementary therapy works. That a lot of the time it's mainly down to the fact that complementary therapists have the time to give their patients that the medical practice doesn't. So why are they insisting on discrediting themselves?
Well, because we don't have the efficacy, the safety, the clarity. Even though touch works, we understand that all the studies that we have tell us that touch reduces infection rates, improves recovery rates, it releases depression. We are mammals that are desperate to be touched. But we've created an atmosphere of suspicion of the word touch over the last years. I mean, this last year hasn't helped at all. We're all terrified of touch now. But in our Western civilization, if you like, we don't have any touch-based therapies at the point of delivery. It's just not done. There's no biomechanical assessment. A lot of that comes down to the way that we teach about the body and the way that we teach anatomy, which is desperately disconnected and terrible. And that's why I'm teaching the anatomy the way I am. But a lot of it is down to fear. It's down to what you can't control. A clinical model. Now people say, oh, it's big pharma conspiracy. It isn't, but it is driven by that idea that what you do with somebody is you diagnose somebody, you find out what their problem is, and you treat them. And so your outcomes have to be relatively certain or certainly better than average. It's an inspired guess, it's diagnosis.
I mean,
And
I've just put the poll results up there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that's 25% have said only complementary, not medicine. I mean, I'd be really interested to hear how they make that work.
Yeah,
I mean, why?
I mean, the word that I would always avoid. I don't mind medicine, and I don't mind complementary medicine. But what I really would avoid, complementary therapy. Well, I think what your question was, you got. I think you got the question a bit muddled. I think you meant medicine or therapy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Put the poll up again. Right. Scrub that poll.
No. I mean medical or complementary. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean. I think the one we want to avoid is alternative. That's one. You know, it's not alternative. It's complementary. The two can work hand in hand. And doctors realise that if in this country, if you regulated tomorrow and stopped people from going to a therapist without seeing their doctor, then the NHS would implode. It would be a dreadful thing. Nikki says that, you know, as a physio and craniosacral therapist, you work in both worlds. And it's, yeah, I think this is the thing, is that we have to key into the beliefs of our clients, and I think we do need both, but I think that there is a polarization, and I think the ends of the extreme don't help themselves. You know, there is Tim Minchin says there's a word for alternative medicine that works. It's called medicine, and it's a very naive approach because it takes a very, very long time for concepts in medicine to trickle down. You know, when we first did heart surgery, everybody died. You know, it takes a while to get that going, and it's hard. I think complementary therapy needs to do more research. It needs to do more research within the framework of science as it lays out. I'm not happy with that. There's ways around it, and we've done some stuff with Bowen. We need to do more. It's very hard to do. It's expensive, but we need to stop saying things that aren't true and making stuff up. I get that we tell stories, as long as we accept that they are stories. If I say, you know, I sit down and I say to you, right, you know, there's Father Christmas, and there we go, and we tell stories about Nellie the elephant or what have you. We tell this stuff, but as long as we understand that the stories we're telling our client is so that they can get on board with it, rather than necessarily that there's a truth to it, I think we might get a lot better. And there is a lot.
It's also a case of not passing on your own experiences and fears with other things as well. You know, there's so many people that have a fear of the medical world. They've been so ostracized and devalidated and you know, ignored by the medical field.
Yeah.
So they, you know, try to find something else, and then it kind of becomes this war against the person in the field that ignored you. But that shouldn't be passed on. That shouldn't be.
I'm gonna tell the story that I think is a great story, and it sums it up, and it's the story about Matt. And you mind if I tell the story, Cara? So Cara's ex-boyfriend was working as in a hospital, and he was telling me that there was a ward, and it had all these people that were in there for weeks and weeks and weeks, and there's 30 odd people, and they're all there with this terrible chronic back pain, and I've been putting my hands on people for years, and I know that probably most of those people aren't necessarily getting full-on touch as far as that's concerned. I know what I can do as far as Bowen. I said I could probably get 20% of those people out within 3 weeks. And he's like, well, that would be amazing. And he said the thing that was the killer blow. And he said, what makes you think that you, with no education or degree, that's pretty typical him, could do something that the best surgeons and doctors in the world couldn't? And I mean, I replied in the basis, well, they don't know what I know, but it was very revealing in terms of that's what that attitude is that if we haven't given it the seal of approval, if it hasn't come within the banner of our of medicine and taught within medicine, well, we don't approve of it. And yet my experience with hundreds of medical students in dissection labs is they're not seeing the body in the way that I see the body and the way that I dissect it. They're going, what's that? It's like, well, that's how the head connects the lower back. That's why you get back pain. And they're like, wow. Nobody sees it. And so there's a big disconnect there. And I walk in those two worlds of saying to people, look, it isn't all big pharma conspiracies. There is something for us all in here. and we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the same for these. It's not just placebo, but all medicine is placebo to some degree. You can't, once you put that pill in the hands of a man in a white coat and a bit of and a stethoscope around his neck, then how he is, and Cara pointed out, like, people feel dismissed, and they feel dismissed, and their healing journey is not going to be valid.
I don't think it's fair for you to say, as soon as the pill gets put in the hands of a white coat, because actually, in order for it to get to the hands of the white coat, the research behind it and the trials behind it are a lot more extensive than that of.
But the patient doesn't know that. If the doctor comes in and says, this is the thing that's going to make you feel better, then that's massively influential. So, you will hear it. You'll hear it in doctors' waiting rooms. Oh, well, you'll feel better when you've seen the doctor. And you will feel better when you've seen the doctor, because, you'll be reassured or sent for tests or given a pill or what have you. And so there's this huge, and that's placebo. Nothing actually has happened, but the doctor's giving you something. And there is a big influence in terms of the doctor giving it to you and telling you it's going to make you better. You can't get rid of that influence. It's impossible. You can't blind somebody to that influence. It's very hard to do, and it's why drug companies have such a hard time, because it's tough to beat a placebo. It's tough to overcome a placebo. So you can't take that out of the equation. So all medicine, to some degree, is some level of placebo.
So come on then, you've got 10 minutes left.
Right.
How do you get medicine and complementary therapy or complementary medicine both? How do you get the medical field and complementary fields to coexist? How do you get them to work? There we go. Dana,
yeah.
So how do we approach those in the medical field so we can work together? How do we build that?
So I was in Australia a couple of years ago giving a talk and to the Bowen Association, and who have a fair bit of money down in the Bowen Federation of Australia. And there was a woman called Barbara who basically is going to save Bowen as far as Australia is concerned. And she's approached a university in Melbourne and come up with this guy and with this chap who's a professor. And what he's doing is he's making available therapists for researchers. There are thousands of health researchers out there. Now, for me to go and write a piece of research, I have to get ethical approval, I have to get funding, I have to find the people, I have to find somebody, a statistician. It's hard work. So what he's done is he's created a system, and the system is that if you took, Bowen therapists, reflexologists, craniosacral people, and you got a good percentage, a majority, say 60% of the representative population of those therapists in a country, and you then made those people available to the health researchers, and it's a simple 10-minute registration for those therapists to do, then those therapists, those researchers can say, right, I'm now researching childhood asthma, scoliosis, Osgood-Schlatter's, whatever, and they then approach that database with approval from the university, and they then incorporate those therapies within their research. And this is a phenomenal initiative, and it's already producing reams of bits of document and research. And that's really what's going to have to happen. We're going to have to demonstrate that these therapies are effective, that they're safe, that they work, by producing the documentation, by producing the stuff that clinicians rely on, because they don't really care about anything else other than, does it work, is it cheap, how accessible is it, and is it safe? That's where, and Nikki's right. The doctors see the system because they're taught the system. They're taught the system in sections, and nobody puts it back together again. That's why I do what I do. An orthopedic surgeon needs to fix my knee. I don't need him to know about my chi or my meridians or anything like that, or even necessarily about the connective tissue. I want him to be good at the job that he does. But for us as manual therapists and movement therapists, we need to see those relationships, and teaching anatomy the same way is not helpful. So we need as therapists to get together with our associations to get these initiatives and things going. I was hoping to bring this Australian chap over last year and chat to the FHT. And sit down and get better research and find these initiatives that produce the documentation that clinicians will rely on, and engage with the research, and not be frightened that that it's all science and it's not to be believed. And in the
Okay,
last,
but then on the other foot, so you're saying, get the complementary therapy and medicine world involved in the research, get them involved, and get their practice more researched. How do you get the medical world to stop being so weirdly threatened and defensive about alternative medicine? Don't say alternative.
yeah,
Alternative.
yeah. Don't think about the white bear. I think by being pragmatic, by understanding that no, we don't spend 7 years. There's an element that says, well, I spent 7 years and a lot of money and worked 90-hour shifts as a junior registrar, helping to fix people. Who do you think you are that you can come and think you can do it in 2 hours? And nobody's saying that we can. I'm just saying that there needs to be a marrying of the two. And I think being pragmatic, saying we don't know is a good thing. Stop talking nonsense by making stuff up that isn't true. Why do we think our Bowen works? Well, we don't really know, but here's a hypothesis, here's a theory. Understanding that I don't know is okay. Craniosacral, well, cerebral spinal fluid doesn't come back up. It doesn't have the pressure to come back up. So what are we feeling? Don't know, but there's something there. So there's a dialogue that we can have. What are we doing? What do we think we're doing? What are the mechanisms that are in place? What happens if we hook somebody up to a machine? And so by being prepared to be examined and testing ourselves and not being defensive and avoiding cognitive dissonance. This is a very, 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 very good phrase. Have I got long enough to talk about cognitive dissonance? I have got
8 minutes.
I have. Cognitive dissonance. If you tell me I am a rubbish tightrope walker, it will not harm my sense of self. If you tell me I can't cook, then I would be upset by that. So cognitive dissonance is being told that somehow you are responsible. For example, there was a cult a few years ago that all believed that they were going to be taken up to heaven in an alien spaceship at a certain time, and the day came and they weren't. And the leader's thinking, right, what am I going to do about this? And so she went outside and she came back in and she went, good news, I prayed, and the Earth has been saved because of our dedication. So there you go, you're not going to the spaceship, but look, you saved the planet. And so, so some people within the field of complementary therapy cling so hard and so strong to an idea that to challenge that idea and take it away from them, or to demonstrate that what they thought they were doing they weren't doing, or it's different, is hugely challenging. Now, I don't mind that, because I know that the thing that I think I'm doing is probably not what I'm doing, and that I have to pick up and put ideas down as I go along, and that's going to happen all the time, and I don't have a problem with that. I know I'm probably wrong. My daughter will tell me I'm wrong very, very quickly, won't you, sweetheart?
Yeah, I've heard that so much in my life, you admitting you're wrong.
Shut up. So no, it's seriously, I do. If I've got it wrong, and then I will say I've got it wrong, and I readily admit that the things I was saying 25 years ago, as far as my understanding of therapy, is just rubbish. It's just, but that was then, and this is now. And Gandhi was asked a question once, and he gave an answer, and the next day he gave a different answer. And he was challenged on that, and he said, yes, but today I'm better informed. And that's what science does. It changes its view as it gets better information. And people that attacked Fauci in America, they said, oh, well, make your mind up, Fauci. Either we're wearing masks or we're not wearing masks. You're like, well, that's what I said when I had that piece of information. And then that piece of information came, and I changed my mind. And it's okay to change my mind. We seem to think that actually getting something wrong is stupid, or we get criticized for it. But actually, I think it was...
We've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's come to light particularly in the last year, is this strong correlation between complementary therapists, or people that call themselves alternative therapists, and misinformation.
Yeah.
Why? You're saying we need to get it. We need to research what we're doing more. But why do you think there's such a link between the two?
It's very interesting, because what you're looking at is a slight degree of truth, something that yeah, Dana's right. You can't change your mind without repercussion, and that's what happens in politics. They call it flip-flopping. Well, actually, I was wrong. So you take a grain of truth. If you look at about 1938 and you look at the groups that Hitler was manipulating, they were very much not the right-wing Nazis, the right-wing, people goose-stepping. These were the hippies, the vegetarians, the people that were right on. They were right behind these ideas. And a lot of the people that we're seeing who are the anti-vaccination, who are just completely misunderstanding or misusing a bit of science to make their point, are very similar within that. There's a strong core of people that have what I call educated conspiracy falseness. And that has to be challenged. And if you look at my Facebook Live earlier on today, I sort of just wanted to put the facts on that. So I think it just keys into a little bit of suspicion of science because it's something you don't understand. And they're, well, you can prove anything. Well, you can't. You can demonstrate the balance of probabilities, and science doesn't set out to prove anything. It sets out to say, this is a hypothesis. What's a hypothesis? It's an explanation for a phenomena or an observation that provides a starting point for further investigation. It doesn't say, we've proved anything. It says, well, I think this is what's happening. Let's test that. And that's really what we need to be doing. And that's really what science does. And then changing our mind or changing our view or changing our opinion according to the facts that get given to us rather than listening to somebody. And there seems to be a dichotomy, a conflict. On the one hand, people mistrust the science, but then people are very happy to send me, oh yes, but this doctor said. It's like, well, either you distrust the science or you don't. So make your mind up. You can't use that bit of science to attack me and then use that bit of science to defend your point. Either you're for it or you're not. And it's quite conflicting in terms of how those people work. But we all rely on science. Children will die if people can't have cesareans. People can't have cesareans. Antibiotics at not too distant future, we're going to struggle to have knee replacements and hip replacements. The biggest threat to human life on this planet, according to the World Health Organization, is antibiotic resistance, not worse than climate change. We are not going to be able to do that. So it's all very well and good being suspicious of science, but at some point in time when your knees are knackered and you're going to want them replaced, what happens then? So there's a huge amount of this choice that we have. We go, well, we don't want the 5G mast, but I'm happy to have Wi-Fi in my house, or we don't want the quarry on our doorstep, but the potholes on the road are terrible. And so there is this disconnect, and there is this cognitive dissonance that once people impact on, feel that they're impacted, that their worldview or that their world values are contradicted, then they'll just blindly pick a route and they'll go off with it. And I think that's what a lot of complementary medicine has done. Touch is vitally important. It's cheap, it's free, there are no side effects. And what we need to be doing is demonstrating that sufficiently to show that there is the evidence out there, and then having the particular therapy that we do prepared to be tested in the conditions that what anybody else says. And Dana, in the US, it's shocking because in the US what you end up with is insurance. So the women that I dissect in the United States don't have uteruses. Why? Because 96 out of 100 women have a hysterectomy by the time they get onto a dissecting table. Do they all need it? Almost certainly not. But if you've got insurance, the doctor doesn't get paid by the hospital. He gets all the
We'll cover that in our.
Yeah, that's another one that.
Medicine.
We will be doing this every week, and so we're having these sessions every week, and I've got a list up on my board up in here, a list of things that I want to rant about.
Feel free to drop in any rants that you want to hear yourselves, any insight you'd like into, and I'm sure that Julian will be happy to oblige.
Yes, Dana, I will look up that. There isn't really a link as such yet. There's a few things, I want to get him over this year to chat about that program. But it's certainly, cooperating with health researchers around the world is really important, and we can do that. So yeah, I'll be doing one next. What do we decide next week? It's going to be nutrition next week. we're going to do
Yeah.
the problem with nutrition. And that's interesting. I've got a fair bit. I'm a gobby bugger. I really am. I got a lot to say on everything. So nutrition
I'm
is
going
one.
to hear your point on this one.
Yes,
I have regular arguments about nutrition, so we'll see.
yeah, I could probably sum it up in about 20 seconds, but I'll do a little précis. There's a 3-minute video I've got out there, so it's just a little précis of this, and we'll save the video. I'll put this on YouTube, so please comment on it. If you go onto YouTube and find it, please do the usual thing, like and subscribe, and please feel free to share it, and check out.
Also on Instagram as Functional Anatomy CPD. We'll be changing the name on Facebook soon as well.
Yes, yeah, we're going to be. I'm calling myself Functional Anatomy. I've been around the fascia world a long time, but it narrows me down into one connective tissue, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I want to look at the whole body, because the whole body is out there, and the whole structures are out there, and they're all connected with fascia. So I don't want to narrow myself down to one particular bit of tissue. So, but check out I'm going to be back in the lab to do 12 days of dissection very soon. Going to be awesome. We're going to look at brain and spinal cord and heart and lungs, and pelvic floor is going to be in there as well. So get on board. You can get both those weeks for £225. That gives you permanent access. You'll have that forever. Well, I say ever. I mean, how long is forever? But so yeah, have a look at the link. Cara, can you just stick a link to that as well? There she goes. Cara's done that. So, well done. And I will be back next week, and we'll be talking about nutrition. We'll put a live event, so please join us. Thank you very much this evening for joining us. Thank you as ever to Cara. And I'm going to go and get my sourdough out of the oven and see how it's doing. So, cheers, Chuck.
Bye.
Bye.